done.
Very engaging session and of course insightful. So I would request Mr. E.S. Bhattacharya to please present tokens of appreciation to the speakers on behalf of the chamber. To Mr. Mehta.
Hey, Shanti Chalo.
It is indeed my great pleasure to be here today, and I feel honored to give me the opportunity.
I am sure we shall be looking forward for the benefit in the future. May I now request Mr. Yohi Mayano of Nito Day.
Today, so I am here to introduce our activity, development of dust suppression technique.
শুনতে পাচ্ছি না কি বলছেন
যাদের ভিজিটিং
दिखा
This pipeline will provide a greater impetus to industrial development along the western coast and will cater to the needs of refineries, petrochemical complexes, rapid economic development, creating a new era of opportunities, helping drive the development of industries as well as social infrastructure, providing local communities with a source of clean fuel for both households and automobiles.
How are you? Good to see you. I did miss the reception yesterday.
Rapid economic development, creating a new era of opportunities, helping drive the development of industries as well as social infrastructure, providing local communities with a source of clean fuel for both households and automobiles.
Morning, where is that panelist room? No room, panelist room. Where all
তাহলে ওনার ওইদিকে পাঠান আপনি তো ওনার সাথে কথা হয়ে গেছে
এসে নামছিলাম তখন
But excitement is knowledge of human. Now, excitement has to prepare itself.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us.
Of an approach trestle of 284 meters. The jetty head is equipped with gas unloading arms as well as LNG transfer systems. H-Energy has signed a long-term charter agreement with the leading French energy company, Total. RU is also capable of reloading LNG onto other vessels, as well as providing LNG bunkering services.
Morning everybody. Welcome you all to the 12th edition of the Bengal Chamber's annual Environment and Energy Conclave. As you all know, this year's theme is sustainability and resources security. Over the years, this conclave has brought together some of the best minds in environment, energy, sustainability, and related areas. So here we are today to present to you the 12th edition, and I would request the dignitaries to join us on the dais. Our President, Mr. Indrajit Sen, our Senior Vice President, Mr. Debe Mukherjee, Dr. Ajay Mathur, Director General, TERI, Mr. P.S. Bhattacharya, former Chairman, Coal India Limited and Chairperson, Minerals and Mining Committee of the Bengal Chamber, Mr. Deepak Amitav, Chairman and Managing Director, PTC India Limited, Mr. Patrick Madison, Ambassador of Monaco to India, Mr. Nitin Desai, Chairman, TERI, Mr. Gautam Ray, Co-Chairperson and Energy and Environment Committee and Chairperson Power Think Tank of the Bengal Chamber of Commerce and Industry and Executive Director, HR and Admin, CESC Limited, Mr. Arun Kumar Mukherjee, Chairperson Emeritus of Energy and Environment Committee, and Mr. Prashanto Banerjee, Senior Advisor of H Energy. We would request the dignitaries to please and come and join us on the dais. And to our distinguished speakers, may we now request Mr. Arun Kumar Mukherjee, Chairperson Emeritus of our Energy and Environment Committee, to please take the session forward.
May I now request our President of Bengal Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Indrajit Sen, to offer welcome address. Mr. Sen.
Thank you, Arun. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great and immense pleasure to welcome you all to the 12th edition of Bengal Chamber Annual Environment and Energy Conclave. We are honored to have amongst with us His Excellency Patrick Madison, Ambassador of Monaco to India. This is his first visit to the city. Having Dr. Ajay Mathur, Director General, TERI, a friend, philosopher, and guide of the Chamber, is always a pleasure. Mr. Nitin Desai, the torchbearer of the sustainability, is also with us today. We welcome you, sir. We also welcome Mr. Deepak Amitav, Chairman, Managing Director, PTC India Limited, Mr. Prashanto Banerjee, Senior Advisor, H Energy, and the young business leader, Mr. Raghav Raj Kanoria, Managing Director, India Power Corporation Limited. We also extend our warm welcome to our distinguished speakers of the subsequent session, august audience, and friends from the media. The Energy Environment Conclave in the last 12 years has addressed various topical and relevant themes like energy transformation, energy tech, sustainable resource management, energy security, water, and many others. We are revisiting sustainability and resource security this year, given the need of the hour because of the growing pressure on our critical resource globally to keep up with the growing demands of the industry and economy. For many generations, our economic structure was on a linear model which uses the concept of take, make, use, and dispose. The concern about limited and finite quantity of resources is not new, and the idea of circular economy for conserving resources was recognized many years back. The foundation in this field of industrial ecology and the concept of industrial metabolism was visualized and introduced in early 1990 by Mr. Robert Ayers by bringing in focus circular approach of economy model as a preferred alternative to linear approach. The linear and the circular approach of economy for the development of products and systems can best be distinguished by the term cradle to grave, flow of material being linear, and cradle to cradle, flow being circular. In simpler terms, the circular economy is like nature, our mother nature, where all products are designed to be recycled in a closed loop system to regenerate and to conserve the resources. The idea of waste to wealth is just one such area of circularity. Corporates today are concerned and acknowledge the need to model their business and structure their supply chain on a balanced circular mode, and also to have suitable and sensible waste management strategies. This is the need of the day for long-term security of resources. This apart, the climate change is dramatically impacting the planet and creating new environmental issues as well as business risks. Responses towards mitigating the environmental damages and ensuring long-term security is also the key agenda of all CEOs worldwide. Though in the Indian context, use of renewable energy has great possibilities, the dependence on coal as the primary source of energy is expected to continue for at least next 20-25 years. Focus, therefore, should be efficient utilization of this resource and to increase the efficiency of distribution and consumption of the energy. We are here today to discuss the best practices, share knowledge, brainstorm on how to address the sustainability as core business strategy, and focus on securing resources for our society to survive in coming years. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Arunda. A very good morning to all of you, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 12th edition of the annual Energy and Environment Conclave of Bengal Chamber. The concept, the theme of today's dialogue and discourse is on sustainability and resource security. A powerful and defining concept, an idea, which was possibly formulated way back in the 1980s, maybe 87. And we are indeed very fortunate this morning to have the principal architect of this concept, of this idea of sustainability amongst us this morning, Mr. Nitin Desai. That was way back, sir, I think, when you were part of the Brundtland Commission, when possibly he took out a paper, Our Common Future. I think that was the report that came out of the Commission. And that was a seminal work which defined the progress and the evolution of sustainability over the years. Essential resources, food, energy, security, water, are absolutely necessary, and it impacts the lives of people across the globe and impacts the security and stability of nations across the globe as well. And therefore, the Chamber thought it appropriate this time to recalibrate the discourse on sustainability and talk about resource security, which is at the heart of sustainability. The program has been structured. I think, to my mind, it's been well crafted, with the initial session where we have thought leaders who would be talking a bit more about sustainability, their relevance in today's context, and how it's evolving, followed by an interesting roundtable discussion by business leaders. And that's very important because business today intersects with environment. A meaningful business, a value-driven business necessarily has to intersect with environment protection, with social justice, and that is what is now abundantly clear. Some of you were there possibly last week when we had the Chamber had its marketing and brand conclave, where Mr. Sanjeev Mehta, the chairman of Unilever India, asked a very pertinent question. He said, we can talk about CMOs, chief marketing officers, and brand strategy of the future, but let's step back and ask ourselves a fundamental question. What's the purpose of our business? We have to do business for good. Technology has to be applied for good. And that's what the millennial consumer, the millennial generation is going to ask us. And we have to be prepared to answer that question. So in short, we are happy that we have a roundtable discussion with business leaders, which will be moderated by none other than Mr. P.S. Bhattacharya, who is a very active member and a guide and an advisor of the Chamber, former chairman of Coal India. And then we sort of go up a bit or wide a bit and bring in international perspective to the discourse. We have the Japan Hour, where Japan is going to talk about the Blue Sky Initiative. It's all about air quality, clean air. And we also have a couple of other presentations to follow. We come back to the local context, and hopefully we should have the mayor of the city, Janab Firad Hakim, who also happens to be the urban development minister of the state of West Bengal, joining us and addressing us. And what is most appropriate, and we thought very relevant, was to dovetail the regional dialogue of TERI's annual flagship event, the World Sustainable Development Summit, the regional dialogue on water as a resource. And that is going to form part of the deliberations in the afternoon session. You all know, ladies and gentlemen, Bengal Chamber is the outreach partner of TERI for the World Summit. And we are indeed grateful to TERI for having or agreed to have the regional dialogue on water as part of the deliberations of this conclave. I sincerely hope that you will enjoy the proceedings of today, and let's hope we can renew our pledge towards sustainability going forward. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Deb, for setting the agenda. May I now request Dr. Ajay Mathur to deliver his keynote address on sustainability and resource security.
Mr. Inderjeet Sen and the leadership of the Bengal Chamber, not me, colleagues on the dais and in the audience. As always, it is wonderful to be back at the Bengal Chamber. And in a sense, we close a circle today, because when this conclave started, we had the pleasure of discussing how we move ahead on one aspect of resource efficiency, which was energy efficiency. And the first outreach ever that the Bureau of Energy Efficiency had carried out on the Perform, Achieve and Trade program, which looked at enhancing energy efficiency industry, occurred here at this chamber in this conclave. I say we come back full circle because we are broadening that concept. As was mentioned both by the President and the Vice President of the Chamber, we are looking at a future in which we will, both for reasons of survival, as well as for reasons of profitability, as well as for reasons of global good, we will need to focus on the twin concepts of resource efficiency on one side, on recycling on the other side, what is together known as the circular economy. I'd like to focus on why this is important, and then focus much more on the next steps that we need to carry out as industry, as government, as consumers, as we move ahead. The first point that I'd like to make is there is a crisis. There is a crisis in India, and there is a global crisis because of the way in which our development model has worked. As has been mentioned, how do we enhance our performance in the market? When you want to put in more products into the market, we increase the amount of raw materials that go in, and that means that we increase the amount of products that go out of the factory and reach the consumer. But in the process, as the President said, we use up more raw material, we also produce more waste. The point has come when, whether it is in this country or in the world, it's no longer possible. When we tracked the price trends of a few key commodities, the trends show what is happening. Let me give you an example. If you look at the price of copper, and copper is an integral part of anything that we do as far as industry is concerned, the price of copper has been steadily increasing over the years. But in the last 3 years, since 2016, we have seen what is called a hockey stick curve. In the last 3 years, the price of copper has jumped from about $4,500 per ton and is now at the level of about $6,200 per ton. But in the period in between, it has been volatile. It has touched as high a price as $7,200 per ton. This is not unique. This is true of zinc, where prices have increased from something like of the order of about $2,200 per ton to something like $3,000 per ton in a 3-year period. Nickel, ferrochrome, the various kinds of rare earths that are being used in the preparation of magnets, so essential for the high quality motors that we are look forward to in the products that we produce in the market. And it's not just about commodities. Think of something as fundamental as agriculture. The last big change in agricultural production occurred in the late 60s when we brought in the high-yielding varieties. But since then, the way of increasing production has been to either bring more land, or bring more water, or bring more fertilizer. The problem is that the productivity of land has suffered. The quality of land, and the Convention to Combat Desertification starts its conference of the parties in Delhi in a week or so. One of the fundamental problems that we see in India and in other countries is that the productivity of land, and therefore the amount of high quality land that is available, is declining rapidly. The short point is, we will not have enough raw material in the world to be able to meet the aspirations of the nearly now about 700 to 750 million people who still in India do not have access to the materials that make up a good quality of life. They just don't exist. If they exist, the prices will be so high that they'll be unaffordable, not only for the people whose incomes are rising, but also for you and me. On the other side, we are seeing that the waste products that come out, not only of the industrial processes, but at the end of life of the products that you and I use as consumers, are finding that there is no space to keep them. In Calcutta, as in Delhi, as in Bombay, as in all cities, we do not have the space to create any more landfills. The current landfills are becoming unmanageable. I think we are sending the wrong kind of stuff to the landfills. A lot of this stuff is reusable. We look at the air. I'm coming from Delhi, and the heaviness of the throat reflects that for the past 3 months, I have been suffering from, we used to call the Delhi belly earlier, but now I would say it is the Delhi throat. The kinds of pollutions and the kinds of chemicals in the air pollution are making life unlivable. Thankfully, it has got political attention now. It got the political attention because there were an adequate number of people who suffered from it and therefore raised the consciousness. The interventions that we look at, whether it is electric vehicles, whether it is moving industry to cleaner fuels such as gas, whether it is more efficient coal production, all electricity generation, all of these reflect the fact that business as usual, in which production increases and as a result pollution increases, cannot be sustained in the years to come. Okay, so this is the problem. What do we do about it? I would like to put before you the fact that there is an increasing perception amongst you and me, as well as amongst policymakers, amongst civil society, that business as usual is not possible, and therefore tomorrow will have to be different from yesterday. How will it be different? So let me spend a couple of minutes on the kinds of interventions that make sense. Resource efficiency, of course. If I can use less copper, that makes great sense. But I don't want performance to suffer. This is exactly the kind of argument that we also have faced when we looked at energy efficiency. I think we have moved ahead successfully. And all of you, in your role as leaders of industry, have helped move that process ahead. I think the opportunities to use materials more efficiently is clearly there. A more efficient motor today uses copper, but uses much less copper than the motors made 10 years ago. In other words, we need to ensure that these technologies develop, and you and I are able to adopt those technologies. Similarly, on the waste side, we are seeing a large number of new kinds of initiatives happening. We see that recycling plants are now able to provide high-quality products which can be used instead of virgin materials. In one industry, aluminum, we are already seeing that something of the order of 60% of the used aluminum is recycled. Now, aluminum is easy, it doesn't easily corrode, and therefore it's easy to collect. The amount of energy used in making primary aluminum is very high, and therefore it makes economic sense as well. But there is no reason why the same kinds of technologies, the same kinds of business models cannot apply to other areas, for example, steel or